Dropdown. With this container, you can show additional content when you click a trigger, for example, a button. So the basic example here, we have the drop-down trigger. Click it and then we can see the content appearing. When we click it again, it disappears. Now let's see how we can use this in different ways. We can have it open only on hover, like so. We can have it stay open even though we hover on the drop-down pane. Up here it would close, but here it stays open. We can make it close on body click, clicking outside of the button. And finally, we can position and align it. Here we have it in the top left, the top center, top right, bottom left, bottom center, bottom right, left top, left center, left bottom, right top, right center, and right bottom. Let's see how we do this. In this code example, I've already have some code here. I have all the trigger buttons and I have a div element with the drop-down content and an ID. So now I'll connect this drop-down trigger with the content. So to do this, I'll add the data toggle attribute with the value being the ID of the box we want to show. So that is drop-down basics. Now to that content here, the div, we add the data drop-down attribute and also the class drop-down pane. Let's save this, go back and select the right tab and refresh. Now we can see that we have our content that we can open and close by clicking. We can also make this happen on hover. So to do this, we'll go down here in our next example. We'll add the data toggle attribute with the value being drop-down hover this time. And then we'll add the data drop-down attribute and the class drop-down pane. Let's save this, go back and refresh. So something is wrong here. Let's take a quick look. Drop-down hover. Yes, of course, I forgot to use the data hover attribute with the value true. As a default, this is false. Go back and refresh. Now it opens on hover and disappears when we hover off of the button. We can also make it stay open when we hover inside of the drop-down pane. So to do this, we add the data toggle attribute, the value drop-down hover pane, and then the data drop-down attribute, the data hover attribute with the value true, and the data hover pane attribute with the value true, and finally the class drop-down pane again. Let's save this, go back and refresh. Sorry, it's a little bit delayed. Now, when we hover above the button, the content appears, and when we hover inside of the content, it's not disappearing. You have to remove or go outside of that content. So that is how you can create a hover on drop-down pane. We can also make it close on body click. So to do this, we go back here. We add the data toggle attribute with the value drop-down body. And then we add the data drop-down attribute to the content and the data close on click attribute, the value true. This will make it close by clicking on the body. We also add the class drop-down pane, like so. Let's save, go back and refresh. Now let's open up the trigger. Now when I click outside, it will close. If we looked at the basic one up here, it won't close when clicking outside of the trigger, you need to click the trigger again, but here it will close by clicking outside of the trigger. Finally, let's take a look at position and alignment. If we go to the reference section over here, we can see that we can position the drop down on all of the sides of our trigger. So to the top, bottom, left and right. Then we can also align the position. So we have the top position here. Then we can align it to the left, which we see right now, to the center or to the right. We can do that in a similar way with all the other positions. So here we have the bottom left, bottom center, bottom right, the left top, left center, left bottom, and right top, right center, and right bottom. Let's go into the code editor and create all of this. First, I'll select all of the buttons here, and I'll add the data toggle attribute, with the value being the ID that we have on the line below. So drop down top left. I'll change all the other buttons later on. Right now, this is referring to this ID. Okay, now we'll select all content panes, and then we'll first add the class drop down pane, and then the data drop down attribute, then the data position attribute with the value being top, and the data alignment attribute with the value being left. Now we can see that we have the top left up here, the first two lines of code. The data position attribute has top and the data alignment attribute has left. Now let's update all of the other drop downs. So we'll start with changing this value to center and this value here to center. Then we'll change this to right and alignment right. Then we'll change this top here to bottom. Also here, bottom, and then we have the bottom left, the bottom center, and the bottom right. And we have the left position, so we'll change this to left, and the value in the data position attribute, change this to left, and then we'll change this here to top, the alignment to top, change the value to center, the alignment to center, change this value to drop down left bottom, and the data alignment value to bottom. And finally, for the last three examples, this is drop down right, then top, and we must change these three values as well to right, drop down right center, finally drop down right bottom, and data alignment should be bottom. I hope you could follow along here. If not, then you should pause the video and take a look at all of these values. It's basically just the three first examples that have been updated and changed to match the rest of the examples. Great. Let's save this, go back and refresh in the right tab. Now we see that all of this is working exactly as we would expect. So this was all about how you can use the drop-down component. Feel free to include any content inside of the drop-down that you want. It could be simple text or a menu.